Hello, I'm Dr. Sam, this is Dr. Sam's Health, and I cannot believe that I'm making my first video in 2020 in February. Jokes aside, I decided to declare 2020 to be the year of the diet. The reason for that is, when I was reviewing my New Year's resolutions, I decided to make more videos on diets, and I actually reviewed my YouTube channel history and realized that when I was creating my channel, my website, by the way, check it out, drsamshealth.com, I was originally planning and hoping to work on diets. So I started with a very nice video on the 3 diets that work. Please check it out. I still believe that it was quite interesting. I then digressed to talking about different aspects of diet. And I was talking about metabolism, I was talking about exercise science, I was talking about different nutrients and so on and so on and so on, while dedicating too little time, too few videos to diets. And now I'm going to rectify this. I'm going to steer back to the diets, and today I'm starting a long series of videos which will review different diets. Since this video will serve as some sort of an introduction to the long series, I would like to cover 2 things today. First of all, I would like to give you my definition of the word diet, and the second thing is I would like to give you some sort of an overview of the videos that will come after this one and the diets we'll be talking about. So what is a diet? I know that this question might seem to be very odd because everybody seems to know what the diet is. People are using this term quite frequently and confidently, but I'm a scientist and I like defining the terms I'm using quite precisely in order to avoid any possible misunderstandings or misconceptions down the road. Of course, I did my research and tried to find a proper definition of the term diet online. It turned out to be quite a challenging task. Most of the definitions are coming from dictionaries, which is plain wrong. I also managed to find a couple of definitions that seem to be at least decent, but quite frankly, they do not meet my standard for the definitions. In any case, I believe that they are worth mentioning, so I will just read them to you. The very first definition I found is a diet is the kinds of food that a person, animal, or community habitually eats, which is nice. Or a more scientific one, a special course of food to which one restricts oneself, either to lose weight or for medical reasons. I found these definitions to be quite nice, but at the same time they do not cover lots of modern diets. For example, there is no way of specifying, say, intermittent fasting as a diet, or these definitions do not include the sources of food, so we cannot classify, say, vegetarian diet or carnivore diet as a diet according to this specific definitions that are being used in popular culture. So in the end of the day, since I'm such a difficult scientific person, I had to come up with my own definition of the word diet, and I will read it to you. So diet is a naturally occurring or intentionally created distinct nutritional pattern characterized by a specific set of nutrients obtained from a specific sources, prepared and consumed in a specific fashion during specific time intervals on a regular basis. So that is my definition of the term diet, and I find it to be perfectly suited for my goals, for my series on the diets, because it's concise, but at the same time it's quite descriptive and comprehensive. It allows me to define and describe pretty much any diet I'm aware of. Let me elaborate. The very first part of the definition speaks about the origin of the diet. So it can be a naturally occurring diet or historically occurring diet, or a diet that would be intentionally created to achieve certain goals. I find it to be very important because we can talk about some naturally occurring diets, such as a Mediterranean diet, for example, or diets that are created for some medical reasons or for weight loss. For example, I think the best example would be the ketogenic diet that was created to manage seizures. Right now it's been used for weight loss, but it was specifically artificially created. It was not a naturally occurring diet. The next part is essentially the core of the definition, which speaks about the nutritional pattern and specific set of nutrients, which implies that we can actually define almost every diet by the types of nutrients people are consuming, and that includes both macronutrients, micronutrients. It also covers the amounts of food that are being consumed and the person's caloric intake. The next important thing is the source of the nutrients, because we can talk about different sources of protein, different sources of fat. It can be plant-based foods, there can be animal-based foods, and most of the other definitions of diets, they do not include the source of nutrients. And I think it's very important to cover because we'll be talking about the carnivore diets, about different kinds of plant-based nutrition, and so on. Okay, the next part of the definition speaks about specific ways we can prepare and consume our foods. I find it to be very important because there are quite a few diets that might not differ from our regular food consumption in terms of their macro or micronutrients, but at the same time they might specify the ways we should cook our food or prepare in general, and the way we should consume our foods. For example, certain diets, especially religious ones, do not allow consumption of certain kinds of foods whatsoever, or certain kinds of foods together. Like you cannot have, say, meat with a milk or something like that. And of course, there are certain weight loss approaches that are directing you to consume your macronutrients in a specific fashion or separately from each other. Next, the timing of food intake. I find it to be particularly important because in the past 20 years or so we have developed quite a few diets, like intermittent fasting, for example, that direct us to consume foods in a very specific feeding window and to have some fasting intervals. And we also have the opposite of that, when people are supposed to consume food multiple times a day in small portions. And the last but not the least, this pattern of food consumption must happen on a regular basis, because if it's not happening on a regular basis, it's not a diet, it's not a pattern, it's just a fluke, and we have zero interest to that. Okay, now we are done with the definition part of this video. We have defined and described the term diet, and now I would like to provide you with an overview of the kinds of diets we're going to talk about in my future videos, in this long series of videos on diets. Actually, let me use my definition as the framework for this overview. So let us begin. First of all, we definitely have to talk about the naturally occurring diets, something like the Mediterranean diet or the standard American diet. In fact, I think I will start, my first video will be on the standard American diet, just because I'm located in North America and lots of my viewers are here too, and it's a very nice diet to talk about as the very first example of naturally occurring diets, because we can take a lot of lessons from this nutritional pattern. The current guidelines on nutrition are based on the idea of modifying the standard American diet and so on. Of course, since I'm a medical doctor, I would love to talk about medical diets or medical aspects of dieting, but I will not focus on that for sure, just because I believe that medical aspects and medical issues should stay in medicine, and this YouTube channel is not meant to provide people with any kind of medical advice. Likely the only exception to this principle will be the ketogenic diet, which was originally a medical diet, and these days everybody uses it for weight loss, to improve their overall health, and it has little to do with medicine or with epilepsy, which was the reason why it was used originally. We will definitely talk about different diets that are based on restriction of certain nutrients or caloric intake, so low calorie diets, low carbohydrate diets, low fat diets, and so on. And of course, one important item on my list is the source of the nutrients. We'll definitely talk about the differences between the carnivore diet and the different types of plant-based diets. I have a lot of interest in this topic, and I already made a couple of videos on that. We'll definitely talk about all these diets in my future videos. I'll pay some attention to different aspects of food preparation and consumption, but another important aspect of dieting will be definitely the timing of food intake. I believe it's one of the major determinants of the success of the diet, or its effects on your health, longevity, on your weight loss, and definitely we'll talk about different forms of intermittent fasting. And of course, there will be others. There will be plenty of different diets that might have something unique, something really interesting about them, and they will be worth mentioning them on my channel and maybe dedicating a special videos to them. So that was the definition of the term diet and the general overview or the scope of the topics I'm going to talk about in this long series of videos on different diets. And since I'm a scientist and a medical doctor, I will make a special commitment to talk about different diets in an unbiased and a scientific way. Which means that every time I'll be talking about a specific diet, I will do my best to find as much research evidence supporting or contradicting certain statements related to this diet. I hope that these videos will be interesting and educational, and as always, in order not to miss a thing, please subscribe to my channel. Hit the like button if you like my videos. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them. Also check out my website drsamshealth.com. I've got my blogs there. You've got an opportunity to communicate with me through my website on top of YouTube videos. So there are plenty of ways for us to collaborate and to communicate with each other, and for me to improve my content. So that's it for today, and my next video will be on the standard American diet. All the best. See you then.